This interview takes place in a pretty big spoiler area. Don't watch unless you've beaten Endwalker. Thanks, bye. And we're good. Okay, so who am I talking to today?
This is Elektra Minoa.
Hey, and how long you been playing the game for?
Um, 2.5 years, coming on to three. I started initially August of 2022. Got overwhelmed because it was my first MMO. The
Yeah.
UI made no sense to me. I abandoned it for about a month, came back, and I'm still here.
Gotcha. I can't really blame you there. Even with playing other MMOs before, the default UI settings are not your friend. So, yeah. Uh,
Especially on a PS4 or PS5 controller.
I can only imagine. I still
That,
can't get used to the idea of playing this on controller. I know people say it's actually fairly easy to do, but it would throw me for a loop at this point.
yeah, it's a learning curve.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Somehow figured it out.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a learning curve, and I'm sure it's easier once you get used to it, but man, going from PC to controller would be something else. I know what my hotbars look like already, and I can't imagine, condensing them down to controller size.
Likewise, I can't imagine pressing keys and mouse buttons.
It's you find a way to make it work. It's easier if you have an MMO mouse, which I do not have. So but you make do,
Yeah,
or you just
yeah.
pay classes that don't have as many skills, one or the other. How long you been part of the FC for?
I joined New Year's Day actually of
Ooh,
this year.
ooh.
It was my New Year's resolution. No,
New Year's
I
resolution
joined.
just to join this FC in particular.
No, I was in an FC before this from about April 2023 until like last fall.
Mm,
They kind of became more inactive, and they were also mainly online just for Savage rating, which I wasn't a part of, still am not a part of.
right.
Um, so I just felt it was time for me to switch to somewhere that was a little bit more active. Tried
Okay.
out a massive FC, was not for me, and
Yeah.
then yeah, it was my New Year's resolution to leave what wasn't working for me, and I joined this one. I
Mm,
joined sleep.
okay.
No sleep.
Yeah, no sleep. You're not allowed to sleep. Um,
I need sleep right now.
you and me both. But yeah, so I don't know if your experience was similar with the large FC. Like, I don't know how big this FC was that you joined before us. Um,
It was massive. It was 400 some people in it.
how many people were
Lots.
online at the time? Do you remember?
Had to be over 20,
Yeah,
maybe 30.
that'd
They were
be
very chatty.
okay. So they were
Uh,
at least talking in the FC chat.
yeah. I don't know if I should name names, but it's a big one. They're
Okay,
still active.
gotcha. I mean, yeah, that's fine. If you don't feel comfortable naming names, that's fine. Like, there's only so many like big FCs on this server, so I probably know which one it is.
I'm
But
sure you do. I can tell you later.
okay. But my experience with the bigger ones was actually kind of the opposite. I occasionally just to throw it out there as like the leader of this FC, I'm always looking for like good ideas that I can basically just steal, essentially. So occasionally I make like a character on a different server or something like that and then join like a bigger FC to see like what they're doing. And I'd say like 99% of the ones that I joined, even though they have like 400 members or something, most of them don't say anything in FC chat for some reason. And then
Yeah,
they have like nothing going on, like ever.
yeah.
So I don't get it.
Admittedly, I was like that. I was antisocial for a while, even in
Hmm.
my last FC where I was with them for over a year.
Yeah.
It took people to actively talk to me to get me to talk, and
Hmm.
similar to the current FC a little bit, but I tried to come out of my shell a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, it can be rough. So like in my opinion, the responsibility for making like that first move to really reach out when you joined a new FC is on the existing FC members. Like, you're a new person that just joined the FC. It's kind of on them to sort of welcome you and invite you to talk or say something or like bring you into the conversation. I feel like that
Yeah.
responsibility kind of lays on them. So if they kind of leave it to you, like as a new person, it can be intimidating to be like, where do I jump in? Like, how do I fit into this group? Like, what's their dynamic like? There's too many questions still
Yeah.
for you to just be
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to jump in and, say something and hope it works out most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that,
That's
but a lot of people aren't wired that way.
right. Yeah. It can be overwhelming too for some people to suddenly not know where they fit in, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknowns, and you've already, kind of made a leap of faith just by joining up in the first place. And so you already had that kind of like stress going on with that decision, like which one do I join? Do I join this one? Do I join that one? And you just got past that, and now like if they put it on you to be like, oh, you need to figure out, how to fit in yourself right now. That's kind of, a bad situation to be put in. I don't think that's very fair.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
usually why when I'm not working and someone joins or something, I try to be online and like say hi to them and just start talking to them and asking them questions or something like that, just to sort of get the ball rolling on that. But
Yeah.
um did the other FCs that you joined do anything like events or anything like that, or was it literally they just exist to sort of chat and game?
They actually did do events. I was in a couple before the one that I was in for over a year,
Hmm.
but not for too long. But the one that I was in the longest, they did some pretty cool events. They did a chocobo racing event. They did a glam event.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll share the idea. We chose chocobo barding, and then we had to
Hmm.
create glam that looked like the barding,
Oh,
which I thought was a fun idea.
yeah.
Uh, I came I came in second in that one, so
Nice.
uh, and then they did a jump puzzle event, which I failed miserably at because I suck at them and I hate them with a passion. Because I
That's
suck at
fair.
them.
That's fair. We've done two of those events ourselves in the FC. We've had like Choco racing multiple times. We haven't had any recently. I should actually get with Nyx and propose that again at some point. But and we've done glam contests, but ours have always been themed around like a current holiday, like Valentine's Day, Christmas, Halloween, like those types of things.
Mhm.
So the Chocobo idea is a neat one. I think that's interesting.
I
Um,
thought it was creative, yeah.
I think that they got tired of throwing the chocobo racing event because it's not very fair because I do a lot of chocobo racing and so I kept winning and and so I think that might be why we didn't do one of those for a while. But I never gave myself prize money. I always just passed it along to whoever was next. But um,
uh,
the it's good that they had like some sort of event because that already put them kind of one step ahead of a lot of the other ones. Because literally, like I joined one on I think it's on Siren, the Siren server. That's around. I think they're a little bit bigger than RFC right now, and I think they technically have two FCs because I see there's always like an officer that leaves one day and then like goes and does something and then comes back and gets accepted back into the FC. Like they're running two of them for like the airships and submarines and stuff or something like that.
Mhm.
And they like don't say anything in FC chat whenever I log in over there. And people log in, nobody says hi, nobody waves, they're just like dead silent. About the only communication that happens is in Discord, and that just feels kind of like bad when you're in game and you're like, I don't want to use Discord because I don't know you guys yet.
Yeah, yeah. There's a different feel on Discord.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, so you said that you weren't real into the Savage rating when that one FC was basically that's all they were doing.
Yeah.
Uh, what do you like to do now?
Um, what do I like to do now? Well,
I don't know.
Rothy got me into Rothy got me into the Unreal, which I
Uh,
also avoided.
Yeah.
But that's become fun to me. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um, what else have I been doing? Brain's still asleep. I do frontline,
Mm.
just roulettes. Oh, I do the extreme trials because I like to collect those mounts.
Oh yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Um, I like the normal raids and alliance raids. Basically just anything not really difficult,
The thing not
except for the
savage or
one.
ultimate. I got you.
Yeah, yeah, I did try Ultimate with you guys.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that
would go back and do that again. I still want to do more of that. Um,
it it was all right. It was better than I thought, but it takes time.
it does. Oh, it would take a lot of time, and it would take more meetings per week than what we were doing. Um, but it's still fun. I still thought it was fun. The it's I mean, if you've only been playing, you said what, 2.5 years total?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and you're already doing, extremes and old unreals and stuff like that, and you even tried an ultimate. I mean, that's pretty good because, like, to date this for people that will watch this at a later time, the current Unreal trial is Suzaku, and the DPS check on this fight is insanely tight, way
Yeah.
tighter than it should be.
Yeah.
As someone that's played for like 10 plus years at this point, this DPS check is rough. So the fact that you've done it and you've actually cleared it is pretty good. I mean, I would put that DPS check on the level of like some Savage fights, just as the DPS check itself. Like that's, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Um,
Yeah, it definitely feels that way.
it is. No, it definitely is. We had to run that what, like 12 times that one night before we finally got our clear, and like that's with me going as samurai and us doing pretty good DPS as a whole, like as a group, and not really making any
Oh,
mistakes. Like
right. That
uh,
time when you joined as samurai and you out tanked the tank pretty much.
I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, I was a tank then. Um, no, I mean that's pretty good, honestly. I mean, if you wanted to step into Savage, you probably could at this point, but if you didn't want to, I would understand because honestly, in my experience with this game, the Savage rating is more toxic than the Ultimate rating is, which is weird. Because when we were doing Ultimates and we were just getting Party Finder for the last like one or two people to fill the group, those people were super chill. Like every time, they were just super chill. But you get like
Mm.
Party Finder to fill something like I remember like Unreal Leviathan back in the day, or just something similar to that, or one of the other Savages, and people are asses so fast.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but drama from Savage Statics,
Yeah,
and
me too.
it continues to this day.
Yeah, it does.
Uh, Same
Uh,
with my old FC. I heard drama from them. People actually quit the game completely
yeah,
after the last Endwalker tier,
yeah,
and yeah, it's
yeah.
not worth it in my opinion.
It's not to me either. That's one of the reasons why I've stayed away from it. Also, like my work schedule is not very friendly with static groups because my schedule changes every 3 months. So every quarter I have to do a shift bid, and then I get a new shift. So if
Yeah,
we had a set schedule and then suddenly my schedule changes, I'm gonna be the problem. So I just sort of avoid that.
right,
Um,
good idea.
yeah, but it's uh, having run this FC for I don't know how many years now. Probably have I been in charge of it for like 3.5 or 4 or something like that. It's been a while. Um, I can tell you that I've had a number of members who have joined as very like casual members and just played regular content, and then in like kind of the slow periods in between patches, they've decided like, oh, I'm gonna try Savage content. I'm gonna try Savage content. And some people, they don't like it. That's fine. Other people like it, and then they get really into it, and then they get ecstatic, and then inevitably, one of two things or a multitude of, or just both of those things happens. But they either end up leaving the FC and joining like wherever their static's at, wherever they're meeting up, like they do a server transfer or something like that to like one of
Mm,
the actual like servers you go to for that type of thing instead of being on
right.
Crystal. And so they have to leave the SC for that, or they have like a blow up with their static, and then they just stop playing the game entirely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
Only two
always
pads.
it's always one of those two things. It's always one of those two things. And there'll be things that like lead up to it, like they'll usually go into a period of time where they get like super toxic about DPS. And so in like every like instance of content they're doing, they start to complain about people not doing enough DPS or doing something wrong with their job. And that's usually like the sign that things are about to get real bad in about a month or two, and then they're gonna leave in some way, shape, or form.
That's
So
exactly what I heard from the static in my old FC.
I'm telling you, I know how this
It's
goes.
it's a template.
It is. It is. You can copy and paste this multiple times over. Like, this is the trend that I've noticed that always happens with these. It always follows the same path. I have names that I could throw out.
Jeez, yeah. But coming just doing the Unreal, I can understand because of the tight DPS check there.
Oh yeah.
You want good DPS,
You
but
do, yeah, but for Savage content, I understand that it matters. Like Savage
yeah,
content, and in this case is Unreal Trial. But 99% of the other content, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to have perfect DPS to do extreme trials. You can fuck up a lot. Be honest, you can fuck up a lot in an extreme trial and still pass.
yeah.
It's just they always seem to follow a pattern. It's like this person did this wrong, or like why does this person have dance partner when I'm doing more DPS, or like some shit
Yeah.
like that.
Or why didn't we skip these mechs and
Yeah.
whatnot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a joke back in Shadowbringers with the FC. Someone that you've never met because they aren't the FC anymore and they haven't been for years. But I introduced them. We used to do these Savage raids for the prior tier, unsynced. So when we were in Shadowbringers, we were doing like the Delta scapes, the Alpha scapes, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And we hit like a wall when we got close to the end. It was like the second one from the end because there were still mechanics that could one-shot you, and there were still actual mechanics you had to solve because DPS stopped entirely at one point, and you just had to solve mechanics, and like we were getting shit wrong. And so two of these people, well, one of them really, our tank at the time, was he'd watched videos, and he saw in a video that if you did enough DPS, you could just skip that phase we were having problems with. And so it became his thing that to tell everybody that they just weren't doing enough DPS. And then he went to, do you know how they have those training dummies set up specifically to see if you're doing enough DPS for a certain like raid? Like
Is
this,
that the same as the striking dummy?
it's similar to it, but it's called like Stone Sky Sea. And so you go to like
Oh,
this NPC and it takes you to a special training dummy that has a certain amount of health and it gives you a time limit. And you have
oh,
to
that's what
like
that's
kill it.
for.
Yeah, you have to kill it within a certain amount of time to tell whether or not you're going to pass the DPS check for a raid. He
Oh,
was doing
okay.
this for a Shadowbringers raid, and he he was the one complaining that like everybody else wasn't doing enough DPS, and he did this training dummy thing for the Shadowbringers raid, and he couldn't beat the training dummy, and and he wasn't getting it done in time. And he said, and I quote, "My rotation is perfect. I think the training dummy is broken." and, and I'm like, no, like that's not the case.
The game is glitched. It's not my fault.
Yeah, it's not my fault this game is broken. Like, come on, dude. Like, come on. And
Oh,
he also was telling everybody to meld more determination, like meld more debt on gear. And this is back when the determination material was garbage and it didn't do anything. like hardly at all. And so those two things became running jokes in the FC for like a year after he left because he got super toxic and he eventually like he got real toxic in the raid one time with Asuna actually, and he was saying that she wasn't doing enough DPS and she wasn't playing her job right and all this other stuff and just being like super toxic when and he did it when I wasn't around, so I had to hear about it later. But we had to have a talk and we had to kick him out basically. So
Jeez.
yeah, yeah. And then I think he was still trying to do Savage Raids after that, and I don't think he ever really succeeded, to be honest.
Well, get good.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody who doesn't do Savage, ironically. Yeah.
But yeah, it's always the same. That's why I just try to avoid it most of the time. If I got like a full FC group of people that I knew and that I knew the personality of, was like, okay, you're gonna be chill. Like it'd be different. I would do it then. But
Mm.
there's almost always at least one.
Yeah.
At least one. Um, but yeah. So to sort of switch gears a little bit, we're currently sitting here in Elpis, looking at the nice scenery around here. And I'll have put a spoiler warning up ahead of this just in case anyway, because of where we're sitting. But why'd you choose this as your favorite area?
Well, it's one of my favorites, but I think the tie-in or inspiration to this area, there's a lot of ancient Greek in it.
Yeah,
And my ethnicity is Greek, so I just felt a connection that way.
it kind of fits with
Um,
what you're wearing a little bit too.
exactly, that's why I switched to this clan. And the name of my character, Elektra, is not from the Marvel comics. It's
Mm.
actually a Greek goddess's name. So that was kind of the
Oh,
idea behind my character when I made it.
actually, I'm not familiar with that goddess. What's she the goddess of?
I can't remember.
It's
My
your
bad.
own name, and you don't remember now.
Wikipedia will tell you.
Flash on screen. Oh, okay,
Yeah, I don't remember.
gotcha,
But yeah, it's part of it. So good enough.
gotcha. Okay. So, do you have some of that gear from like the PvP vendor that's also like Greek and Roman like inspired, kind of?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do have it.
okay.
It's like the Sagittarius, some of it's, I forget the name of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Well, I think one of it's called like a Mendicus or something like that. I've got them in
Yeah.
my inventory. They have like awful to remember names, but I've done so
Yeah,
much
it
PvP
looked
at this point.
it's nice. It looked kind of Roman slash Greek.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. There's a lot of different pieces that very more so on the Roman side a lot of the time, but some of it can be kind of either. Um, that's cool. So, what classes do you like to play in the game here?
Ooh, I started as a dragoon,
Mm.
played that until about Dawntrail, and then I saw Viper and shiny things, and I kind of switched to Viper. I didn't, because I'm not a Savage player and I wasn't that hardcore, I didn't really know rotations for
Mm.
the most efficient DPS.
Right.
Um, so I don't know if I'm even a good Dragoon player after playing it for a couple of years, but yeah, I played that. Viper. I've gotten into Astrologian and healing,
Mm.
mainly because this is a backup account that became a main account, and I wanted to farm for comms, so I just healed my way through roulettes
That's the easy way to do it, yeah.
and actually ended up liking it
Hey,
more than tanking.
okay.
And what else do I play? Oh, I play Machinist occasionally.
Yeah, if you
I
weren't
think
gonna
those are
say it, I
my
was,
current
because
favorites.
that's what you take in Unreal all the time with us. So
Yeah, I had to mention it.
okay, okay. What
Honorary.
what do you take to PvP? Because it's a little different in PvP.
Oh, I stick with Dragoon there.
Yeah.
I actually find the jumps convenient. So like if somebody's running away from me with low health, I like
Yeah.
to do the high jump and kind of chase them and finish them off.
That's fair. That's fair. Um,
Or in like the narrow areas, like any map with a narrow area, I'll use the
mm,
limit break and
oh
people are
yeah.
trapped and I love it.
Oh yeah. No, it's great about that. It is. I it's changed a lot over the years, the PvP. Before they ever did their first revamp of the PvP system, before we had crystalline conflict and all that, when like nobody was playing PvP, I used to play Gunbreaker all the time because it was basically unkillable in frontline. Like I could literally stand in the middle of 15 people and not die. So that was broken. And after the revamp, I did a lot of Samurai at first because Samurai was also pretty strong with the insta-kill limit break if somebody like touched me at the wrong time.
Mm.
And then Black Mage, and now they've revamped Black Mage, and I don't know how it works now, in PvP at least. And I can still do Dragoon. Dragoon is still a solid choice for me too. I like Dragoon a lot. But in like frontline and stuff, I usually stick with Machinist because it's just it keeps me out of like the front line, so nobody can tab target me.
Right.
Because they have to cycle through like 5 or 6 other people first, and so I use that
Right.
to my advantage. And then the fucking like the sniper move for the limit break is also good for taking those running away people.
Mm.
Because once you get like battle high a little bit, it does insane amounts of damage, and it just sort of snowballs really hard. But that, and I also can like trap people with the turret too. Like area of denial with the turret is also really funny to me. They try to
I
do like a
did,
crystal capture and it just takes up their whole space.
yeah, I did try it
Mm,
once or twice. I tried Dark Knight,
yeah,
Astrologian, just to try and be one of those toxic players
yeah.
with a friend. But I stick with Dragoon.
Dark Knight is harder than I thought it would be because there's so many people that make it look really annoying and really easy to live with. And when I do it, I die. So I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, my experience is similar.
Yeah. Yeah, and Astrologian you can just forget about. I'm not I'm not even gonna try that one. Uh
Healing is tough in PvP, at
it
least in
is.
frontline.
It is, yeah. The only one that I ever even try is the White Mage, and that's mostly just for the limit break more than anything. Just the line AoE limit break that stuns people. That and
Mm.
the turning them into the little water imp because that's funny too.
That irritates me on the receiving end,
It
but
does,
yeah.
yeah, no. I know it's irritating on the receiving end, that's why I like doing it to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you ever got a chance to try it or not. Probably not. But there's a game mode that nobody ever plays called Rival Wings,
Oh
and
yeah.
it gets a little bit more popular during the Moogle Tombstone events when they bring those out because they always have rewards on Rival Wings for that. So that's like if you have played League of Legends, yeah,
I have not.
have not? No, okay.
No,
So, but you know what it's about, right?
not really.
Not really.
All I know is
Okay.
that there's a lot of toxic people on it.
No, there are. Yeah, that's not what it's about though. So
I don't know.
that's just a
I
result.
watched I watched a little bit of the Arcane series on Netflix to try
Okay.
and familiarize myself with it, but I'm not
Okay.
actually familiar with
So,
it.
do you know what like MOBAs are all about, just in general? Like the
No.
gameplay? No. Okay. So, that throws my explanation out the window. But basically, so like League of Legends has 3 lanes basically where minions go down each lane and you have like champion characters that you pick and you're trying to push the lanes to the towers and then eventually to the enemy base and just like take out all their towers and their enemy base and
Mm.
then you win the game. It's basically that for Final Fantasy is what Rival Wings is, except there's only 2 lanes and then there's like a center platform. And then on top of
Okay.
that, you have this I don't want to call it currency. It's like a meter of ceruleum that goes from like 0 to 100. And as your team gathers ceruleum across the map and from killing the mammoths and stuff going down the lanes, you can mount up for like mechs. Like you can mount up into a mech, like Alexander mechs, like Cruise
Mm,
Chaser and stuff like that. And then they have special abilities and stuff. And you're using all this to try to push your mammoths down your lane to the enemy base to take out their base. And it's like a
okay.
24 versus 24, like two teams of 24 each, split up into parties of four apiece.
Mm.
So it's not as big as Frontline. It's not as small as Crystalline Conflict, but I find it a lot more fun, honestly, than Frontline.
I've done it a couple times maybe.
Have you?
For the Mogtome event that you mentioned.
Ah, okay, okay. I
I had
have.
to do it then.
I
Yeah.
was gonna recommend trying that if you hadn't. Yeah, but you've played it.
Yeah, and it didn't make any sense to me.
It's,
I've only played it a couple of times.
it makes more sense the more you do it. I promise. And it also makes more sense if you've ever played any sort of MOBA at all. So if you didn't do League of Legends or anything before that, I get why you'd be confused. Because it's
Yeah.
if it's your introduction to that genre of thing, like it doesn't do a very good job of explaining itself. So
Yeah. I had the same experience with Frontline when I first joined. I
oh
didn't
yeah.
know what was going on. I didn't know about PvP. This is my first real MMO.
Yeah.
I was clueless.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing is that this is your first MMO. So you I mean you play video games other than this, yeah? Or
Yeah, I'm an offline game player,
okay.
mostly single player
Mostly.
nowadays.
Okay. So like how long before this game had you been playing games for? Just as like a general idea.
Uh, I guess I could go back to when I was about 4 years old playing Duck Hunt.
That's fair. I also played Duck Hunt around 4, so I understand that. Um, that was that. I still have my NES Zapper somewhere around here. Um, little like orange and white thing. But yeah, okay. So you played games for years, but it was mostly single player offline stuff. Um, so as your first experience into like an MMO, this is not like a typical MMO in my experience. I've said it in like other interviews, but like I used to play Guild Wars for a little bit, Terra Online, RuneScape. What was the other one? It'll come to me eventually. I tried Black Desert Online for a bit. Um, and none of those I stuck with. Like I think the longest out of those was RuneScape just because it worked on the school computers, but I don't really count that because there was nothing but grinding. And Guild Wars I stuck with for about a year. And that's probably the longest one. Um they all those MMOs have like there's a story there. Couldn't tell you what it is. No idea what happens. um it's
I
weird. Good.
I have heard about that. I think it was World of Warcraft where
Hmm.
people just skip the story
Yeah.
and then they come into they come into this game and they try and do the same thing and then they
Yep.
get crap for it basically.
Yeah, well not only that, but they get burnt out because like WoW's big thing is like the in-game rating. Like that's their big scene. They do Mythic Plus dungeons and stuff like that. I've never played WoW, so I can't speak, totally on their behalf. I'm just talking from other people's experience of what they've told me. And it's just that like all of WoW's content is in game. Like it's at the end of the game or PvP or both. And this game is like the opposite of that. All of our gameplay is throughout the whole course of the game's lifespan and throughout all the expansions. And it's mostly just the story. Like you play this game usually for the story first, gameplay second, and then in game like third most of the time. And
Yeah.
those are the people that enjoy that stuff in that order that usually stick with the game. Because the people that come from like WoW and stuff like that and they want to rush to in game, they may buy skips or they may just go through the story and skip everything, and then by the time they get to the in-game content, they're burnt out. They don't
Mm,
they might do it and then they're like, "Oh, the Savage Raid has a week cooldown before I can get the next reward. Like now I don't have anything to do." You know?
right.
Or they get their like ultimate clears and they're like, "Okay, now what?" And that's a good question. Now what?
Yeah.
Like
I guess it just depends what you're interested in. If they're just interested in the battles, then I guess that's all they're gonna get out of it.
I mean, if they're interested in just like the solely like really hard content, It's there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's not enough of it to where it can be a replacement for WoW or something like that. You know, like they're not going to get the same experience as they get in WoW if that's what they care about. To really sort of get into this game, I feel like you have to enjoy the story and you have to sort of just want to be here just like as a whole and doing different things, like having different experiences. If you go through it on one
Yeah.
class and then you just rush to the end game and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do savage rating and that's all I'm going to do." You're going to find other things to do with your time eventually. You're going to play this for like 2 months and then you're going to drop it and be like, "Well, I'm bored now."
Yeah, I can see that. The reason why I started playing this game in the first place is because I was a fan of Final Fantasy
Yeah.
series. I enjoyed the stories, so I enjoyed this story, as painful as The Realm Reborn and Stormblood were for me, and Dawntrail. Honorable mention for Dawntrail.
Yeah, honorable mention
Um,
for Dawntrail. Yeah. Yeah.
but I did make it through a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah.
Um,
So you, I mean,
yeah.
how many Final Fantasy games did you play before this one?
I played 7. Didn't make it much through 8.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
10 to a little bit of 12, like 10 hours or something.
Yeah.
15, I put in about 8 hours, gave up on that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't actually finish a lot of them. I played, I think 4. I got the remaster of 4 on the DS.
Oh yeah.
Played that until the first boss, and the first boss annihilated me, so I gave up on that.
You got to the Mist Dragon and that's where you stopped?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it
Okay.
might have been after the first boss
Okay,
then. I
okay.
think it was like Kane or whoever, whatever the name was.
Okay. So
But yeah.
I get you. So a couple of notes in there, just because I played like most Final Fantasy games through to the end. Um, I can understand not getting through 8 because like between 7, 8, and 9, like the three that released on PS1, 8 is kind of the odd one out. It has a weird scaling system and like a weird junctioning system, and it's kind of hard to get used to. So
Mm,
out of all those PlayStation ones, I understand that. Um, the 15 I can also understand. I really like 15. Like, but when I got it, it was like at its jankiest state because I got it on launch, and that's before all the patches that added more content and fixed all the bugs and stuff. So like,
yeah.
I made it through that experience, and honestly, like a big portion of it was just because I really like fishing, and you can fish a lot in that game.
Yeah.
And also, Ignis's food made me really hungry, and so I just kept
Yes.
finding more recipes.
Yes. That was an appeal for me too, yeah.
Yeah, it also just reminded me of my friends from like high school. Like I had a group that was very much like the group in Final Fantasy 15, and that also carried me through a lot just because
Mm,
it made me nostalgic for like those years. But
yeah.
the uh the Final Fantasy 4 is actually, before I played this game, Final Fantasy 4 was my favorite Final Fantasy game. It was also the first one that I ever completed, back when I was like 7 or something like that,
Mm.
Um, the DS version is hard as shit. So
Is it? Okay.
yeah, so the experience that you had was like an upgraded, I hesitate to call it the Dark Souls version of Final Fantasy 4, but it's kind of the Dark Souls version of Final Fantasy 4. So, like, if you ever played the Pixel remaster version that they have, that doesn't have
I
the increased
haven't.
difficulty,
Mm.
that may be more your style, your speed, because that one's not nearly as hard. The DS version is fucking hard.
Why did they do that? Okay, noted.
I,
That's going
I
on my list.
I think it's because they had released Final Fantasy IV in different forms a bunch of times, and so they were really trying to change it up. And one of the complaints that people had about Final Fantasy IV was that it was kind of easy. And
Mm.
so when they made the DS release, they're like, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna change some things." And one of the things they changed was like, "This is hard as shit now."
Fuck you all.
Yeah, fuck y'all. You said it was too easy. Fuck you. They added some super bosses and stuff too at the end. Like they did a bunch of stuff. And for somebody that's played like every other version of Final Fantasy IV, I love the DS version. But I have like years and years and years of experience with it. So like
Mm.
I know what's coming ahead of time. I know what to prepare for. Like I have lots of experience to fall back on. As a new person, that would have been awful. Like
Mm. Yeah, that was my first foray into it, and it's a shame because I really liked what I was playing.
yeah,
I liked the story up until
yeah,
the boss that I just
y-
couldn't get past, and I
yeah.
was just like, I can't do this.
No, if you ever want to try it again, if you like the story, either try to just play like the Super Nintendo version on an emulator, like you can always do that, or
Uh,
you get the Pixel remaster. And the Pixel remaster is just the SNES version, like with new graphics, basically, and like an updated script, I think, to fix some like
okay,
typos and stuff. So that is much, much easier to go through.
okay, I'll have to do that. I do have a Switch. I
Yeah,
just been leaving it collecting dust.
the Switch is the perfect thing to play that game on. Like it really is. So if you ever want to grab that sometime, I highly recommend that. And also, like, once you've played through Final Fantasy IV, you'll realize that a lot of Endwalker was inspired by Final Fantasy IV. There's so many
Oh,
throwbacks to Final Fantasy IV and Endwalker that it's insane.
oh, nice.
Yeah. So I had a great time going through Endwalker. Speaking of, actually, I know you said like A Realm Reborn, Stormblood, and Dawntrail were like hard to get through, and those are like the low points for most people. What was your highest point?
Um, Endwalker. It was tough to decide between Endwalker and Shadowbringers. They're both really good. The
Yeah.
reason why I chose Endwalker is because that one was a tearjerker for me.
Yeah.
So anything that gets this cold heart to cry, it gets higher on my list.
What was the scene that you cried the most?
The end, where they were
Hmm.
all disappearing in Ultima Thule,
Oh yeah.
that got me.
The walk.
Yeah, basically that whole part.
Yeah.
And the dialogue was very deep and kind of philosophical in a way,
Yeah.
from what I remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
hit me in the feels.
Yep. That's there's I'm not a person that cries at video games like ever, really. But this game has got me multiple times through multiple expansions now, which is an impressive feat. Um it got me in like Shadowbringers first. I think that was the first. Well, no. No, I guess it got me first in Heaven's Ward in the vault. And like not necessarily the vault itself, but the scene after when you go talk to Lord Edmont and have to like see
Um,
him break down at the end. That one
okay.
got me. And then uh Shadowbringers got me in different spots. And then Endwalker, there's like two big scenes in Endwalker that got me. One of them is the walk, which is what you mentioned. I guess there's three because there's also like after the fight um with Singer and stuff that got me.
Mm,
But
I
the
think
other
that did
one,
too, yeah.
the other one is the Urianger scene where he meets Moonbreeder's parents. That one
Oh,
got me.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
The hug
I can see that.
when she hugged him is when I broke down at that point.
Yeah, that can be emotional. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably a good one too.
Yeah.
There is one more that I remember actually
Mm,
from Endwalker Walt that I just remembered. I think with Medion,
mm,
when she started getting really dark
yeah.
and really existential,
Yeah.
that also got me too.
Yeah, there were parts in there that got me too. Um
I think it was actually on this map, that one part
yeah, it
where
is.
you had to follow and chase her around. That part,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's it's up there a little bit on those higher platforms over there across the way, if I remember right. But yeah, I remember that, and part of that got me too. Like a lot of Endwalker's dialogue got me. Just even if it didn't make me cry, it made me think a lot because I used to be very like introspective about that kind of stuff. I used to think
Hmm.
about it kind of an unhealthy amount, and so like it kind of brought me back to that mindset for a little bit. It made me kind of vulnerable. So I get
Right.
that. I get that.
Yeah. I think that's what connected me with it is
Yeah.
being able to relate to.
Yeah. No, it was very relatable. It was all stuff that I had kind of thought about at the past and stuff that I kind of try to put out of my mind sometimes and things like that. And it was kind of bringing it back up, and it was very strong. Shadowbringers and Endwalker were like two of the strongest experiences, and then being back to back from each other, that's you know great. Like that's a fantastic move on their part. They really knocked it like out of the park at that point. Now then they had
Yeah.
Dawntrail after, which
Fell flat on its face.
yeah, yeah. So
But
out of the low points, what do you think the lowest point was for you?
um it's hard to say. Dawn Trail, as boring as it was, did get somewhat interesting the second half.
Yes.
Um Stormblood, I basically couldn't skip the cutscenes fast enough. A Realm Reborn, a Realm Reborn. So, as boring as it was, I was actually so refreshed playing a Western game for the first time in a while. This was my first real MMO, but
Mm,
before this, I did play Dragon Quest X online in Japan,
yeah.
and that felt a little bit more like a child-friendly game than
Yeah.
this. Maybe because this is rated teen. I don't know about Dragon
Yeah.
Quest, but um, and at that time, I was also living in Japan
Mm.
and homesick. So any taste of the West I could get was refreshing. So that did help me with A Realm Reborn, but then it still got boring. So maybe Stormblood was the lowest point.
Okay. Okay. Um, I remember the Dragon Quest MMO because there was a guy that was in the FC that you've never met because he's been away for a while. He was kind of on the younger side, but he played the Dragon Quest MMO too. But it was only in Japanese. There was no like English text from what I remember.
Yeah, yeah,
and so I never got to play it. Dragon Quest as a whole is definitely more kid friendly. Like they have like kid friendly monster designs and stuff like that. That's just the
yeah,
series. Um,
yeah.
but he had brought it up. I kind of have a similar experience in a way to what you're saying because for me, like, yeah, A Realm Reborn was really slow, and when I went through it, it was even slower because it was before they revamped a bunch of stuff and made it faster. Um, so I had even more quests, and the quests were longer, and they were so boring. But I had been so long without a Final Fantasy game that I had enjoyed because we had like 10 years of nothing but like the Final Fantasy 13 franchise,
Mm,
and I did not like the 13 series at all. Um, but I love Final Fantasy. And so it was really, really frustrating. I kept waiting on the next Final Fantasy to release that wasn't an MMO, and it kept getting delayed. Like Final Fantasy 15 kept getting pushed back. First it was like 13 verses, and then it got renamed to 15, and then it like kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I'm like, you know
I
what?
remember
Fuck it.
that.
I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna fucking give up. I'm gonna pay for a subscription for the first time in my life. Never before paid for a subscription to any MMO. I'm like, I'm gonna pay for a subscription. I'm gonna buy this game. I'm gonna try it. I'm desperate for like how the old Final Fantasy made me feel. So I did it,
Mm,
and I got into like I started in Gridania because I was a lancer, and I went out into the woods for the first time and saw just like regular monsters running around and stuff, like ladybugs and shit, and started playing, and like the battle music kicked in and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm home, like yeah,
yeah, I had that's how I felt coming from Dragon Quest back to Final Fantasy for the
yep.
first time in a while too. Yeah.
Yep, it was just, it's hard to describe. It was just like, I'm home. It's like, it's 15 years ago sitting in my room in the middle of summer, on my floor playing a video game in front of my TV. Like, that's how I felt again.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, I've made a good decision this day. And so,
Yeah,
uh,
that's why I can look back on The Realm Reborn. Granted, I played it after they cut out all the
yeah,
bullshit.
yeah,
Um,
you got a much more streamlined, much better experience now. And A Realm Reborn isn't even that bad now, like, honestly.
mm.
Especially not compared to before.
Yeah, I can't imagine before.
Oh god, it was rough. Um, I think Stormblood, when I first went through it, I was kind of disappointed, just like you were. But the more I thought about it afterwards, and since I've had to go through it twice now, I actually kind of like Stormblood now. I'm okay with it. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite either. Um, I think that honestly, my least favorite is Dawntrail. Like, I think
Mm.
it's solely the first like 70% of Dawntrail. Like the last 30%, like you were saying, it got more interesting. I got invested again at that point. That first
Mm.
70% of the story, though, I just could not give less of a shit about what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I felt the same, yeah.
I
With Stormblood, at least, retrospectively, you could see how it's set up,
Yeah,
Shadowbringers and Endwalker with
yeah.
Xenos.
Yeah, and who knows? Like, Dawntrail might be setting up something better down the line, and I'm hoping that it is. It's. I will say that the most recent patch content, like story-wise, has been still more interesting than how it started in Dawntrail. Like, I'm still more into this. The normal raid storyline, even like I like the normal raid storyline more than I like the main story quests. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
uh, so like I'm invested in that. But like the 70%, basically before you get introduced to Sphene and all them, and like before the attack on Tuliolol happens, like everything up to that point, I just don't care about. I don't care about who's taken over as Dawn Servant or whatever. Like, I don't like Wuklamot. I don't care.
same,
Like,
same, yeah,
I wanted to switch teams and I wanted to go support Kona. Like, I wanted to be like, hey,
same.
Urianger, Thancred, can I just take your guy?
I felt the same, yeah.
I like with Stormblood, you could argue they were doing something kind of similar because Stormblood was a lot about Lise and like it was partially like her story, just like Dawntrail's partially Wook Lamot's story. But we knew Lise up to that point for, a long time. Wook Lamont
Yeah,
just showed
even
up
though,
at the end of Endwalker and was like, hey, I'm here. I don't like boats. You want to help me?
yeah, yeah. I mean, we kind of knew Lise. She was what? She was always in disguise, but still, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we knew her just under a different name, but I mean, and at least then it was like, oh, now you're getting to know more about this person that you've been hanging out with. It's just been kind of like a ditzy airhead up to this point, right? And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, well, this is a little different. This is not my favorite thing, but at least I'm still kind of invested. Wook Lamont, I'm just like, you know what? Just move. Just let me do things. Like,
yeah. So the when I was getting through Endwalker, because I didn't catch up until patch 7.1.
yeah,
So I was still behind. So I got to play all the Endwalker patches, and the final Endwalker patch that sets up Dawntrail, it's very jarring how it just changes all of a sudden. And you
yeah.
meet Luke Lamont, and I thought that was strange, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I kind of got like this weird feeling too. When I was up on patch content and that happened, I'm like, this is a weird shift in tone. Like, oh, I just wrote it off as like being a patch thing. Like, oh, they're trying to make her goofy so that we like her, so that because we're gonna be spending more time with her, next expansion. Maybe she'll be okay. She was not okay. It was not okay. I should have listened to that gut feeling. Uh,
I,
hmm.
I can see how they would want to lighten the story after Endwalker,
Yeah,
but a little too much. A little,
yeah, they lean too heavy into that, and then like I don't know, all of like Dawntrail up until like the 70% mark, it felt like there was really no stakes involved, and I'm not expecting like world-ending stakes, like we had with Endwalker, because that's hard to follow up on. But
mm,
like I just didn't feel invested. I didn't really care if she won or not. Like I kind of didn't want her to win because I felt like she wasn't a good choice. Like
yeah, yeah,
I just she was constantly like kind of in our way and her dialogue sucked. Like it's not even like I'm not even talking about like the voice acting or anything. Like just the way she's written sucks. And
yeah.
she's just not a fun character to be around. And I think that they got the hint, to be honest with you, because in like the new patch content, I've noticed that she might have like a line or two, but then she goes off screen, and then we spend more time with like Queen's Fiend or something like that.
Mm.
Like, I'm
I'm
hoping that
glad
they've got
they,
the hint.
yeah, I'm glad they read all the hate mail
Yeah,
complaints.
yeah. I hate to say it, but I am too. And I don't. Are you up to date on patches? Like,
I am, yeah.
okay. So I don't know if you got the same read from this that I did, but I'm getting this weird impression from just dialogue that she has and stuff that I feel like out of if anybody's gonna join us after Dawntrail, that it's gonna be Sphene and not Wook Lamont. Like I feel like
Hmm.
she keeps talking about how like she's gonna be determined to get her magic back or whatever and learn how to fight again and learn how to take care of herself. And I feel like she's gonna be the one to join the group, which I'm all for because I like her a lot more as a character than Wook Lamont. So
Yeah, yeah. Maybe Wukelmat will be like Lise and just kind of
hang
disappear in the
out
background.
in Dawntrail,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Show up in a cutscene now and then, be like, "Hey, I brought people to help you," and then not say anything ever again. Um,
yeah.
we can hope. But yeah. So outside of this game and just like games in particular, what is it that you like to do as like a hobby or anything, any of your interests outside of this, basically?
Um, well, I like to go for drives. I go to the park and walk a lot.
Hmm.
When I had a bike, I would cycle. Um, I read.
Hmm.
What else do I do? Those are the main things that I do besides like the watching stuff thing that everybody does.
Any favorite genre of like book that you like to read?
Uh, my current favorites are by Andy Weir, the author who wrote The Martian and Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
As far as fiction goes, so what's it like sci-fi kind of?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think I like sci-fi and fantasy as far as fiction goes. I've been reading a lot of psychology books lately too.
Oh, okay. Trying to get in my mind. I see how it is. Uh,
Trying to get in my own mind.
okay. I don't read all that much now. I did a lot in school just because it was one of those things where if you like didn't have any work to do in school, the only way you could pass time was by reading. So I often didn't have a lot of stuff to do in school, so I read a lot at that point. And I picked it up again at this job occasionally when we would have spare time in between phone calls. I don't really get that spare time anymore, so it's been a while. But I usually stick to fantasy novels too. I do sci-fi a little bit sometimes, but a lot of it's more like medieval, like high magic fantasy stuff, like the Lightbringer series and stuff like that.
Mm. Yeah, those
That's
are.
hmm,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say those. Yeah, that's what I gravitate towards.
yeah,
Not that series in particular, but yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, I like that's just the most recent example I can think of in my head because that's the most recent one that I read that was any substantial amount of length. Um, which those are actually very good. If you've never read them, I enjoyed it quite a lot. Um,
Okay.
but they're big books. Like there's like I think there's like 5 books in the series, and they're all like 1,000 pages or more. I think so.
Oh,
They're a little hefty, yeah.
chunky books.
They're a little chunky, yeah. I remember that I got so into one time that even after I got off work, I spent like hours reading. I went through like 300 pages that day, and when I finally got done reading, when I looked away, like the wall was moving. Like my eyes were so tired that like my world was spinning when I unfocused from the book. So I was like,
That's 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 a good feeling. I love that feeling when I happen to find a book like that, and I feel like actually Endwalker was like that for me.
yeah, yeah. Endwalker was really strong as far as that goes. I for the first time ever, while playing the game, when I was going through Endwalker, I decided that I was going to clear out every quest in like Charlian because I did one side quest and I realized that like the side quest I did tied back to the Scions, and as it turns out, like every quest that you can do in Charlian ties back to stuff that you know from other like expansions and stuff. So
Okay.
I just did it for the story. Like I was so invested. I just did it for the dialogue and to see what would happen and what led to things. And there's I don't know if you'd want me to tell you or not. Um but there's one quest in Charlian that ties back to a Scion that's a family member actually, and not one of the twins. Um,
I did do the side quests, if that's what you're referring to,
did you? Okay, so
but I
you
just can't remember.
okay, so
Was it
you
the mother?
the dad actually
Oh, okay.
of the one that died.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, Papalimo, Papalimo's dad.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. I was okay. I was thinking of the twins. Okay,
No,
yeah.
no, no, not the twins. Yeah, no, there's a just like a regular side quest, and I don't remember what you had to do with the side quest, but I remember learning at the end of it that like it's Papalimo's dad that you did it for, and so he talks about his son in the Scions, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Like, oh, now I feel things. Like,
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
my memory's been bad, but I do remember
Oh,
that
my
a little
memory's
bit.
awful most of the time, but I remember that. Yeah. Um. But yeah, it got me. Like Shadowbringers got me so heavily invested in the story, and then Endwalker just really like drove it home. And at that point, like I was all in, and so I was doing everything I could to to read up on story bits and like history of like the Scions and stuff like that. You know, in game and out of game. Sometimes I was just super into it. So
Mm.
I get that. I get that. I
The
feel that.
Square Enix sells on their online store with real money.
Mhm.
They sell encyclopedias. I don't know if you've seen those.
I have.
That's
Yeah.
that's on my to buy list one day.
Yeah, I'd like to have it at one point too. Honestly, um, I don't buy books like ever, but I would buy that. Um, there's also they've got the cookbook thing, which I'm
Yeah.
kind of interested in too, just to sort of have because I think it'd be a nice little novelty item to have.
Yeah, I own it. I tried a recipe back in like February or something in the winter.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Hmm. See, I'm an awful chef. I can't cook to save my life. I've almost burned my house down one time making a pizza when I was a teenager. So, like, I doubt I can make anything inside the book. But, you know, I can pass it to my wife and be like, hey, Saren. Like,
Yeah,
hey, Saren, I want
that's a
this.
good idea.
Just tap on the page. Hey.
Tap on the page. She'll appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure she
Woman,
will.
get in the kitchen.
Well, hey, don't you love me? I'm starving. Uh,
Yeah.
she knew what she signed up for. But there's also I don't know if you ever checked it out in like the food channel, but we also have like some pinned posts, and one of them is there's a website where someone that's really into Final Fantasy 14 made their own dishes based off of Final Fantasy 14 dishes too. And then there's also the Final Fantasy 15 like unofficial cookbook where like a bunch of people got together and made the Final Fantasy 15 foods that look so nice when Ignis do them. Um, when Ignis does them. So if you ever need an inspiration for food ideas, there's a bunch of them pinned in our food channel.
Ooh,
Uh,
the 15 one is unofficial?
the 15 one is unofficial, but if you look through it, it's actually really good. It's really well put together, just like an actual cookbook. Pictures and everything. And
Ooh.
some of them look really fucking good. So,
All right, I gotta check that out.
yeah, you should check that out. Um, but yeah, I guess we've hit the hour mark already. I don't know how we did that so fast, but yeah. To sort of wrap things up here so it doesn't get too long. You have any other like final thoughts or final words you want to say or just anything you want to close out with?
Um, I guess I could say that this is the first FC that I found that I'm glad that I joined, that I feel really connected to, genuinely. I did meet some friends at the other one that I was in for over a year,
Hmm.
but I could say I met some, I guess, lifetime friends here. I did meet some people in real life. Well, so
Hmm.
far one.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like this was like the place that I was looking for. Basically, the size of the FC, the activities that we do. Um, yeah, I've been enjoying my time here. So
Okay.
it's only been like what, 4 or 5 months
Yeah.
since January, and yeah, just wanted to say I'm happy to be here.
Well, hey, I'm glad that you joined too. It's been nice to have you around. It's been good to get to know you and all that stuff. And I think that I know the person that you've met, and I, I'm glad that you found a place that you feel like you can belong and that you can get along with people and make friends and stuff like that. Because it can be hard sometimes to get to know new people. So I'm glad you feel welcome here. And if you ever don't feel
Yeah.
welcome, just say something because I don't mind chewing people out. But yeah, I guess we'll wrap up there. Thanks for doing the interview, and as soon as I get this uploaded, I will tag you so you can take a look if you want to.
Okie doke.
All
Thank
right.
you.